Saw dudes. Welcome back. New year, new me. Yes. Welcome, welcome. Fairly new background. A little bit new shit going on. New chair back there, at least. Made it of skin, actually, Rabbit. Made it of some kind of skin. I won't tell you what. We'll have to tune in and find out. Welcome, everyone, tuning in. Yes, exciting days. Cover a couple things this evening. Get into some talk about aliens and cyber attacks, Satanism, disclosure, and the Civil War, and Jeffrey Epstein, which ties into maybe the whole like Satanism thing a little bit. So, yeah, dudes, what's up? For people watching these VODs who still aren't followed, please consider giving me a follow. I'm back up to 262 now. I keep going back and forth. It's just punishing me. It's torturous. So please consider giving me a follow. Trying to get up there. I need to stream more. I need to do other things. I need to post more content. I need to troll people on Twitter more. I don't fucking know. Whatever it takes. Yeah, I know that I do need to do that. You know what, Train Beast? I will do that tonight. I will upload the last VOD I did tonight. There you go. It's finding the time, you know? Yeah. Yeah, I know you do. You're tired of that repetitive story. Yeah, I know. This is a new year. New year, new me. New us. There you go. It'll happen. This is the year. Hey, listen, everything's going to fall apart anyway, so what the fuck does it matter? Get your camping gear ready. We're all probably going to starve to death and die line disease in the woods together, so... Might even end up beating each other. So, hey, there you go. Keep things positive, though. That's my goal, 2024. Chin up. Keep things positive. Don't devolve into some kind of, like, hopeless, nihilistic state. Well, there you go. Absolutely. Your car this year, okay. Fuck, man. There you go. Actually, we need to buy a new car, too, so... We'll go out in style, Digi. Go out real fast. Fast and hard. That's the way to go out. That's how Jeffrey Epstein went out. Actually, no, he went out slow and painful and sad and alone. And that's what happens when you traffic children, Jeffrey. So, fix my mic. There we go. Yeah, fuck yeah. So that's kind of the talk of the town. On Twitter right now, I noticed. So, dodging the justice system. Justice finds you one way or the other, though. Whether that was justice or not, or people trying to, stop him from spilling the beans. But hey, too late. It's going to come out either way. I thought this was kind of interesting. This is a cluster of fucking tabs open here right now. I'm just going to go through them. It's going to be all over the place tonight. But Monica Lewinsky is trending. Interesting. The quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, who I don't know, but Mr. Galen TV may know, says he will pop some sort of bottle when the Epstein Associates list is released and suggests Jimmy Kimmel will be named. Fucking, I hate Jimmy Kimmel. Oh my God, I can't stand that guy. It's just like an NPC like Stephen Colbert, which makes me sad because I loved Stephen back in the day, but turned out to be a complete NPC. Everyone is excited. Here you go.
Bring it up, Foxy or somebody back there.
Seats on it.
Bring up Super Bowl 58.
You'll see it.
The emblem, put it on the screen. And then bring up 57 and 56.
This has something to do with the Epstein list that came out?
Feels like.
That's supposed to be coming out soon.
Look, this guy's been waiting in his wine cellar.
Yeah.
I've been waiting in my wine cellar for this thing.
A lot of people, including Jimmy Kimmel, are really hoping that doesn't
All right.
Oof. God damn. Yeah. Yeah, it's like happy little tabs. Yeah. Adam Carolla, I didn't mind Adam Carolla, actually, I should say, did you? But Jimmy, I don't know. It seems like Jimmy just did whatever he could to become famous. And it may have included satanic rituals. I don't know that, though. That's a meme. But it's probably just some fuckery. Goddamn claims. I thought this was dope. Look at this. Where do I get me one of these fucking things for the stream, y'all? Is he on like it looked like a fucking like grocery fucking cart or some shit. If I only could have seen that IRL, that would have been incredible. Would have lost my mind. Yeah. Dropped in core. This. I think so. I pulled everything up. Did you? So I think it's in here somewhere. I pulled up everything that everyone had shared. The little black books. Yeah, man. I don't know, Rabbit. We're gonna fucking see. I guess it's like any day now. They're gonna release it. The court's gonna release names of associates. So who will those people be? We'll find out. I think we already have an idea probably who those people are, but yeah. What's next? That's a little bit. We'll save some of the dark stuff. I don't want to get too fucking dark here. Oh, yeah. Let's Oh, I thought, this is kind of relevant, I think. I wanted to play this because, yeah, it's not going to matter. It's just going to be a list of people he met with that will prove nothing, most likely. Yeah, you're probably right, Train Beast. It's hard to say. Technically, he met with Trump, too, right? So we know that. But the flight logs are probably more damning. Like Clinton going to Lolita on the Lolita Express, like dozens of times. Like, that's very sus. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens, I guess. People are hyping it up. So, yeah. Who knows? Maybe more people will come forward with stuff, kind of similar to the disclosure shit. Like, yeah. Supposedly, through the grapevine of things, people have said it's also a much darker narrative than what's been spun in the mainstream media. Like, it's not just like teenage girls, like 16, 17. It's like kids and shit. That would definitely put a damper on things, I think. So, but yeah. Yeah, and the flight logs have been out, but I think what might make this music is so chaotic. Turn it down here. What might make I think what they're going to do is this list of names may tie to some aliases that be used in other documents. Like Bill Clinton's name, I guess, has already been tied to an alias that was used. So now we know when people look into these documents, see whatever the guy's name is, like Bobby, whatever, etc., but that's actually referring to Bill Clinton. And so now people are retroactively going back through the new information and being like, oh, fuck. Like, this guy they're talking about all this horrendous shit. This is Bill Clinton. So, yeah. Oh, well, it's just the reality, little Billy. It's just the fucking dark world that we live in. I mean, corruption. It's real. It's out there. It's uncomfortable to face, but, like, it's always been there. And Elon has played his part, honestly, in revealing this kind of stuff. He's provided a platform to people to just kind of speak their truth, I guess, and that can be a problem. Like, I've run into a lot of legitimate fucking nonsense on Twitter, but if you have like more than 5 brain cells, you can filter that stuff out. Like Alex Jones stuff, like he's back on Twitter just memeing very hard, and it's like, okay, like, but whatever, I don't care. Like, that he's there. Actually, I kind of like running into his videos once in a while because I have a good chuckle, and he is just such a meme. But Sam here didn't really feel the same. I thought I'd play this. Just some hypocrisy here, just in a second.
I mean, look at what Twitter has done to Elon's life, right? It's just, Elon used to be a friend. He's somebody I knew reasonably well. His engagement with Twitter has been catastrophic for him as a person, from my point of view. I mean, it's clearly a compulsion. I mean, he was so addicted to it that he felt he needed to buy the platform. But it is his use of it has been so irresponsible and produced such, forget about the harm he's produced in other people's lives. And nothing I'm saying now it relates to changes he's made to the platform. I mean, that's a separate thing that we can talk about. I've always been agnostic as to whether or not he could actually improve Twitter as a platform, and he may yet wind up doing that. But I'm just talking about the way he has personally used it as a user of the platform and the way he's interacted with people and signal boosted massively the profiles of anonymous QAnon lunatic trolls, right? I mean, he's been completely cavalier in who he interacts with, all the while knowing that anyone he boosts suddenly gets 1 million followers and has a platform that they otherwise couldn't imagine having. So I look at him and I think, all right, if someone of his talent who has so many other good things to do with his 24 hours in any given day, is this derailed by this platform? Is using it this compulsively to the obvious degradation of his reputation in most circles?
Yeah, but Sam, bud, pal, I don't think the only reason the guy spent fucking billions of dollars is so that he could be like king of Twitter. Is there an element of that in there? Probably. Is that the sole reason? I don't think so. There's a bit of a war going on right now, bud. And I don't know what his take on that is, honestly. But we've had a huge problem with people finding a place that supports free speech. And many of the other, social media platforms, including Twitter, actually, before Elon bought it, were censoring people left, right, and center for everything. And that's not what we want. So, I think the decision was made by him to provide people with a place where they could kind of say their piece. That free speech, that means people will say stuff you don't want to hear, and sometimes create communities around things that you don't necessarily fucking agree with, and sometimes oppose. But for the most part, from what I've seen, I think personally, it's been fairly successful in creating, you can get into different debates on this, if it's created, echo chambers of like bad ideas. But I think for the most part, in regards to probably our biggest threat, which in my opinion, the biggest threat we're facing right now as a species, is these globalist, elitist type people who have bad intentions and who have infiltrated and manipulated many of these Western democracies many of us live in. And they're a huge threat. And I don't know if Sam is cognitive of that or is cognitive enough of that. Anyway, yeah, he did not want to buy Twitter, like meme buying it, got caught, then basically sued into buying it, then lost billions. Yeah, irregardless, I'm glad that he did that. I think in the end, it's provided people a platform to spread ideas. Listen, there's something been going on recently, and recently I mean the last year, with farmers in Europe, and these fucking lunatics from the WEF and the World Health Organization have tried to get nitrogen out of the fertilizers because it's contributing to global warming, which we'll get into in a second about that shit. But you don't see coverage anywhere in the mainstream media of the protests and the riots going on from the farmers in let's see, all of the Nordic countries essentially, and in France recently was protesting this, and then Germany, huge protests, like every fucking day. The farm tractors have been going up and down the streets in their main cities, and their capital cities, and so like spraying down the Capitol buildings at times with fucking manure and shit. So you haven't heard any coverage of that anywhere. The only place I've seen any coverage of it is on Twitter. That's it. So that whole narrative, it hasn't made it into the mainstream media, like globally, at all. And so without this platform, I think a lot of people may have kind of forgotten, oh my God, that's actually happening. Like it's these, sly little fucking things they're trying to do, right? And the consequence of removing the nitrogen from the fertilizer is that the consequence could be lower food production. And then out of nowhere, you go to the grocery store and the prices have either doubled again, or, well, probably it's going to happen. There's not going to be as much food, or there's going to be shortages with food, then the prices are going to double. And there's not going to be as much food, it's going to be fuckload more expensive, which is kind of what we just went through. But it's, again, this point here about how dare Elon talk to this is memeing, talk to regular people, but completely cavalier about who he interacts with, damaging his reputation in circles that count. And this guy made a really good fucking point here. This is the same Harris who did a podcast with Sam Bankman-Fried. That Sam Harris is now giving lectures on reputations. In this episode of the podcast, Sam speaks with Sam Bankman-Fried about effective altruism. They discuss how he became the wealthiest self-made billionaire under 30. What might go wrong with cryptocurrency, the Giving What We Can pledge, how SPF thinks about using his resources to do the most good in the world, how not to stigmatize wealth redistribution, norms of generosity among ultra-wealthy, pandemic preparedness, impact, etc., etc., etc. Anyway, the guy had been rumored to be fucking sketchy. I'm sure he paid his way to get onto that fucking podcast, right? Sam put that in his fucking pocket. So get the fuck out of here, bud, essentially. It's just ridiculous. Getting a bunch of charges dropped supposedly because he downloaded it. Oh man, like it's just like endless fucking bullshit. Yeah. It really is so. It really is, man. It legitimately is. And I think a lot of people know that, but people who are sitting comfier than others, right, and pointing at fucking Sam, don't really want to make people cognizant of that day to day, because it starts to kind of tear away at the threads, the fabric of our little comfy reality, right, for them at least. But for most people, right, who aren't millionaires, then, we're subjected to all the bullshit. So they kind of just don't want to rock the boat too much. And I do get that, but at the same time, are you comfy right now? Well, that's good then. That's good. I mean, like, people who would be comfy if all the, grocery fucking prices doubled or tripled still. Like, I know if the grocery prices double again, I'm not going to be fucking comfy. I'm going to fucking starve. But some people who are a little bit maybe well off financially can deal with that. They can weather that storm. There's a lot of people right now who are not weathering the current storm that we're in. And I would like to see more recognition from some of these intellectuals too, as to the the degree of the storm many people are in. Maybe they're kind of out of the loop on that, but it's really, really fucking bad. So anyway, fuck. Speaking of which, this is kind of fucking interesting. I'm not familiar with who this girl is, although maybe if I click on her thing, I will be. She's an author. No, don't know who the fuck she is, but followed by people that I follow. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Whitney Webb on why intel agencies are running election simulations. Just watch through the video maybe a little bit here.
I want to ask you about something you've also been writing about recently, which is election simulations. I think this coming year is going to be so crazy with regards to elections, all the information that's out there. And one thing you've talked about, which I love and repeat on my shows, is we shouldn't have a political savior. And we seem to ping pong back and forth between red and blue and red and blue. And everything for the average person just seems to get harder and they get poorer. So what can you share about the upcoming election and these simulations?
Okay, so actually, it's not new reporting. It's I did a series on this company that was doing very weird election simulations in the beginning of 2020, specifically a company called Cyber Reason. Yeah, and in that same year, I was also writing about another company that's sort of gotten tied up in this called CTI League that recently has gotten some coverage from Michael Schellenberger and Matt Taibbi. As part of the whole censorship discussion, but they obviously, as I've been noting, and as I noted in my reports on them from 2020, have been involved in a lot more than that. So basically, this company called Cyber Reason was conducting unusual, I would say, simulations with the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, and law enforcement in the U.S. They're not a company founded by Americans, by the way. They're all like veterans and still active, more or less, of Israeli intelligence services. And they basically conducted these simulations of what types of hacks and events, cyber attacks, could trigger the cancellation of a U.S. presidential election and the declaration of martial law. And so there's been some people that have been concerned that they made that, seems like something that might happen next election cycle. I don't really know. I do know that it's very likely there's going to be some sort of cyber 9/11 style event next year. And that's unsettling. It is a U.S. presidential election year next year, but it's also a presidential election a year in about half of the countries of the world. So I'm sure next year is going to be much more turbulent than this year was in terms of stuff on that scale. And then you have these groups like one of the top guys at the World Economic Forum saying a massive cyber attack is not likely, but is going to come before January 2025, which of course we're in December 2023. That implies it's going to be in 2024. And this is the same group that during COVID was like, well, just wait for the cyber pandemic and it's going to be worse than COVID and all of this stuff. So
yeah, and these are the fucking idiots again who have their fingers in all of these pies, and anyway, some game studios recently been hacked to so unfair. Oh yes, Rockstar was one of them. Actually, I saw that about Grand Theft Auto, the new game. Yeah, that guy was just a guy. You think he hacked it through his smart TV in his hotel room or something? Leaky told me. Just kind of a meme, but yeah, it's been ongoing. Hospitals all over, I think the world, but in North America, at least I know hospitals have been hacked. Some big hospitals, multiple times. Some of them, and held hostage. And the hospitals actually ended up paying the ransom. You can Google this multiple times. And the ransom sometimes is millions of dollars of Bitcoin. Because they have to look at, like, especially hospitals in the States are more of a business than hospitals here in, communist Canada. These are paying customers that they've got on fucking life support. And when someone hacks in and threatens to shut all the power down to the building indefinitely, they just pay them the fucking money because they have enough to fucking pay it. And people doing this know they do, so it's an easy way to make some quick cash. So, yeah, it's pretty fucked. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it's yeah. It's a problem though, and like I'm not a fucking cybersecurity expert. I'm technologically inept, but I was watching some guys on Joe Rogan talk about AI, and these guys clearly, actually, they were both hackers initially. I think that's what they kind of did for fun. And they were talking about during that discussion how, which is probably something, you shouldn't say publicly, but anyway, it's one of those things. Yeah. That if you have $10 million US, $10 million, you can probably hack into pretty much anything. There is pretty much nothing that you can't hack into if you've got 10 to 15, maybe $1 million USD. So nothing's safe. So yeah, there we go. So, there you go. How would you even spot a real supervillain? It's not like they'll dress up in a costume and have a German accent like in the movies. That's funny as fuck. Yeah. He did that. That's the professor's. He's a professor of economics. But professors tend to dress up in strange garbs, like professor robes. Yeah, like during graduation and stuff, like people here in the West wear similar outfits. Like, look at this fucking guy. What in the Christ? Got a little, that's kind of weird, a little boy holding it there for him in the back. There you go. Oxford University gowns, but they all kind of like, that's what he's actually wearing there. Professor Snape, yes. Wizards. These are our wizards, academics. That guy's like a dark wizard. Yeah, Sith Council, yeah. He's like, he kind of looks like Voldemort, actually, doesn't he? I'm not like a big Harry Potter guy, like Voldemort. Where is he? Oh, shit. Yeah, I can kind of see the... Oof. He's missing the nose, but if he had the nose, then I could see... Interesting. He should not be named. Rocco's Voldemort, yeah. Literally. Big K, Big Klaus coming in, shutting down the internet. Yeah. It's kind of crazy. I mean, Rocco's Snack, yeah. It's, I would just have a hard time believing they'd be able to get away with this after warning people for so long about it. But then I guess you set the perfect stage to be like, we warned you when you did it. It's like pre the whole flu thing. There's something called Event 201. So about 2 months before shit broke loose in Wuhan there was a mock test for a coronavirus pandemic. It's really hard to believe, but it actually happened. And the mainstream media on planet Earth actually have not connected those two dots together. That the people involved with that may have had a hand in intentionally, but then it's like you make that leap of like, intent. But it's like, guys, come on. It's like they're still in the cave, and like the guys just, at first, like this Plato's cave, right? At first, the guy's making like fucking like really good pictures on the wall. You're like, whoa, like this is real. And then he just starts fucking with them and just starts like making like almost obviously like hands, like just sloppy as fuck. And they're like, no, it's still real. It's still real. It's like, guys, wake the fuck up. Like seriously though, like turn around and look, but like they won't. They're glued in. That's the life of an NPC, though, right? That's not their programming. Yeah. With the Dionysian and Apollonian bubbles, I think they're super cool. I don't know if I am scuffed. Let me see. Maybe I am. The Apollonian and Dionysian are philosophical and literary concepts presented by a duality between the figures of Apollo and Dionysus from Greek mythology. Its popularization is widely attributed to the work The Birth of Tragedy by Friedrich Nietzsche. Oh, okay, yes. Through the terms had already been in use prior to this, such as the writings of poet Frederick Holdren, historian Johann Wackham, yes, and others. The world Dionysian occurs as early as 1608 and Edward Topsell's zoological treatise, History of Serpents. Concept has since been widely invoked and discussed within Western philosophy and literature. Yes, okay. Nietzsche found in classical Athenian tragedy an art form that transcended the pessimism found in the so-called wisdom of Silenus. The Greek spectators, by looking into the abyss of human suffering, depicted by characters on stage, passionately and joyously affirmed life, finding it worth living. The main theme in The Birth of Tragedy is that the fusion of Dionysian and Apollonian artistic impulses forms dramatic arts or tragedies. He argued that this fashion has not been achieved since the ancient Greek tragedians. Apollo represents harmony, progress, clarity, logic, and the principle of individuation, whereas Dionysus represents disorder, intoxication, emotion, ecstasy, and unity, hence the omission of the principle of individuation. Nietzsche used these two forces because for him, the world and mind and order on one side and passion and chaos on the other form principles that were fundamental to Greek culture. Yin and yang in some ways, I guess, huh? Yeah. Like little connected dots, yeah. We talking about Satanists yet? Not yet, Krieglig, no. It's coming, though. Interesting, yeah. The Apollonian, a dreaming state full of illusions, and Dionysian, a state of intoxication, representing the liberations of instinct and dissolution of boundaries. In this mold, a man appears as a satyr. He is a horror of the annihilation of the principle of individuality, and at the same time, someone who delights in its destruction. Interesting. Yes. Yeah. It's, drink red wine, read a sad poem. There, you got both at once. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. To me, it's two ways to categorize human behavior. Dionysian being the primal and instinctual drives, and Apollonian being kind of like the super ego from Freud. Yeah, it kind of is, isn't it, man? Yeah. And it's people maybe getting locked into one and not having a balance, right? Like in Eastern philosophies too, like the yin and the yang, right? Finding a balance between the two extremes and whatnot. But yeah. Oh yes, it's very it can become very when you see things like that, when you see things like that in the world, like for instance the whole Event 201 stuff, and I've talked to people about this, and some people who are very disillusioned with everything after like seeing people not willing, I guess, to kind of connect dots here. And you need to be careful with dot connecting, and you can start like implying like maybe a little bit like too much intent. They're like, okay, well, this person obviously wants to kill everybody. It's like, okay, well, we don't know that, but at the very least, there's something here that's worthy of further inquiry. And people are just blind to it. And over time, I thought that actually, I think more than anything, people are just ignorant to it. Maybe they see it, like they feel it. They just choose not to digest it. Like they know what it is. They just don't really want to digest it in their life because of the undue anxiety it might cause them. So yeah, it is all about balance. Yeah. Yeah, Zach. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, hopefully they don't balance it at the fucking internet here. Right? I don't know. I mean, hard to say. It's hard to say. I don't like making bets in the future. I have no fucking idea what's going to happen. All the years I thought something was going to happen, or I thought this was the year things are going to go down. Actually, the year of shit really hit the fan. I had no fucking clue what was even going on the whole time. As someone who grew up reading all of these fucking crazy conspiracy theories on stuff, and the global elite, and the idea, like listening to Alex Jones over the years, like, oh, they're coming to fucking get us next year, like they're gonna fucking kill us, like it's in the water, it's in the air. And then when the whole thing broke out, I didn't think anything was gonna come of it. I just thought the whole thing was ridiculous. I wasn't really paying attention. I don't think a lot of people were. And then it turned out to be a big deal. So yeah, Delphi candidate here. I'm not high enough. I'm not high enough to be the oracle. You have to reach a certain level of just complete fucking sauteed to give people readings. That's what they did. They sat over. I think I heard that anecdotally. Oracle of Delphi, high. No, that's not it. Of Hughes, yeah. Modern scholarship long ago dismissed as false the explanation that the ancient Greeks gave for the oracle's inspiration: vapors rising from the temple's floor. They found no underlying fissure or possible source of intoxicants. Experts concluded that the vapors were mythical, like much else about the site. See, I thought that was fucking proven to actually been a thing that happened. I thought they actually found that there was something that was. No, I thought there was a fucking crack in the ground that was releasing toxic chemicals, and they sat over it. Interesting. Fumes and visions. Yeah, maybe that's just a meme I'm carrying forward here that I shouldn't be. Quite possible. For me, it's 2011. Oh my heavens. We're on the precipice, Galen TV. It's cooming. It's cooming for us. Here's another random fucking thing I pulled up. Again, this stuff's all going to be all over the fucking place. I'm just going through the tabs. Ross Coldheart, I've been told by people be careful here. Let me just say I'm aware of claims that there is a group of ex-military who go around the world investigating the phenomena. And my understanding is they're not paid by any government. They're paid by a private aerospace company based out of Long Beach, California. I've spoken to former military personnel who claim to have been part of that body. A number of them are people who've worked for our Defense Signals Directorate, as it was then known, or other intelligence and military services in our country. But I'm told there is a collaborative effort to investigate the phenomenon and to retrieve any physical samples. And this has been going on for some time. But I can't do any better than that. Interesting. That's kind of a Stephen Greer-esque breakdown. The closer we get to Stephen, the more concerned I get, honestly. But hey, I mean, is everything that comes out of Stephen's mouth bullshit? Probably. Are there a couple things that aren't? Probably. Maybe spattered in among the bullshit, there's some diamonds, some jewels, right? But who the fuck knows? I don't know. It would make sense personally if you were involved in doing something like this, conducting operations like this, and you didn't want to get the general public, i.e. Congress and the Senate, involved in this. You wouldn't really want the military, active duty, like military, to be involved doing this. You'd probably want people off the books involved in doing this kind of stuff. And we already have some anecdotal evidence pointing that they gave these crafts potentially to the aerospace companies for just that reason, which is to kind of get it out of the public sector as quickly as possible. So then why would you use people within the military who's under the public's directive to go retrieve these things? Because then you see that creates a bit of a problem. So it would make sense that they might use something like that. Yeah. But yeah, it's interesting. Just more anecdotes, right? I don't know. I mean, we hear so many anecdotes. We hear so many whispers. So many, fucking, so many secrets, Ross. Like, can you whisper more of them in my ear, maybe? And I promise I won't. I promise I won't tell anyone. I promise I won't tell a fucking soul. All right? I just need to have a conversation with some of these guys. Like, I'll keep your secret 100%. I won't just come on here and tell everyone instantly. And then no one's ever going to come on the show for that fucking reason, probably. Anyway. Let the truth be free. I don't deal with secrets. If people have secrets, I say go whisper them in the woods by yourself. I don't deal with secrets. I just say things. I speak truths. That's how I roll, right? I don't keep secrets, right? Even if things maybe should be kept secret, I'm like, fuck that. Like, boys, you fucking listen to this. Like, so I don't know. There's something about that I find to be nefarious. Honestly, I like transparency. And obviously some people can argue, I guess, some things are best kept secret for good reason, right? If you have adversaries, you don't want them knowing about your weaknesses, right? But ideally, we want to live in a world where we don't have those kind of adversaries. And that's obviously a delusion, but ideally, we won't have to keep secrets, right? And this is one of those secrets I don't think needs to be kept any longer because everybody fucking knows anyway. And it's just to the detriment of all of us that this still goes covered up. And the detriment of a lot of people that may be helping us. Where was this? What's this guy's fucking name again? I was forgetting his goddamn name. Here. There's an interview this guy did. I think his name... Oh, Dan. There's his name right there. Danny Jones. There you go. The fucking podcast used to be called Concrete. He had this guy on named Brian Keating. Brian, I think, is a physicist. Close enough. 52. Doesn't look 52, Brian. Looking pretty good at 52. He is a cosmologist. There you go. Interesting. Professor of physics at the University of California. Yes. So Danny asked Brian this, and this is Brian's response. If you'll load, goddammit.
Explains all these things like Roswell and these things that these pilots are seeing on their radars and the sightings above these nuclear bases and all this stuff. Like, what do you deduce from that?
I don't want to avoid the question, but I would say, like, why don't you believe in Muhammad? Like, why aren't you a practicing Muslim, Danny?
What do you think?
I don't want to avoid the question, but here's a fucking tangent to get us off talking about this. Yeah. Like a beat ready podcaster. Yeah. Keep it secret, keep it safe. Yeah, fuck you on TV. I just, there's so many problems with that statement. Now, to be fair to Brian, you're on the spot. You're on a podcast, right? Probably don't even really know what this podcast is. You just got invited on. This guy probably just paid you money to come on. And he just asked you this question maybe you weren't really prepared for. And listen, everyone has fucking bad takes. But I get what he was getting at with this. I wanted to talk about this because I get what he was trying to get at, which he's getting at like belief. And that what we're mainly dealing with here right now with ufology and the alien UFO phenomena is all this anecdotal shit. And that's not really going to be enough to convince anybody in science. You can't really apply the scientific method to that really, honestly. So then you're in the realm of like philosophy, I guess. You're in the realm of like theology. And then you're into like beliefs and stuff. But I get what he was trying to do. But again, equating this with a 1500-year-old metaphysics, right? It's a different kind of metaphysical problem now, right? Like this, there are tons of eyewitnesses, and again, and I've said this a lot, and I'll continue to fucking say it though. But the hard sciences haven't really had much of a role in this up until very recently, and they really still don't because we don't have anything physical for them to analyze. Now, if we're going to speculate about what people are seeing, the phenomena and how those phenomena are functioning, right? And like some of these military videos, then we can start to maybe ask some physicists, like, okay, well, does this make sense, right? Could we extrapolate out, our technology a couple hundred years, and is this something that adds up? Like, is this actually something that's happening? But for the most part, we're into philosophical question, and the anecdotal evidence is extremely valuable to like philosophical investigation into this, I think, and this phenomena and the metaphysics involved with it, the metaphysical nature of it, and all the different questions that raises, about the intent behind it, if there is intent behind it. I think other disciplines have had roles to play in this that maybe have been kind of gone quiet, and the media tends to prop up some other disciplines, right, as like the god tier disciplines, right? Like, physics is one of those disciplines that is propped up because, they're dealing with fundamental nature of reality, and you need to be very intelligent to kind of deal with some of these concepts, extremely abstract concepts and mathematical equations and whatnot. But there are other disciplines that have something to say on this, and they've kind of been pushed to the side a little bit. As I covered on here many times, but psychology definitely has a role to play. Even philosophy, just in regards to just eyewitness testimony in and of itself, and what people see, and like perception, and epistemology, like theories of knowledge, and how we get knowledge, and how knowledge over time is affected by memory and things like that. And there's a role for these other disciplines to play in analyzing these accounts. So yeah, difference between believing and knowing we want to know. There you go. That's exactly it. And it's one of those things too where we can get into talk about absolute proofs. It's something I was using my favorite tutor, ChatGPT, this afternoon, talking about this. Someone post the smooth brain Jim emote for me. Excuse me. About absolute proof, and that there are few things really that we know absolutely. And you can argue in mathematics. There you go. You can argue in mathematics there are some, but there, it's debatable if there are some absolute proofs there or not, I guess. And when we get to absolute proofs, one thing that we know absolutely is that we exist. We think, therefore we are, right? That's one thing that you can't make someone doubt, is that they exist. So there you go. Again, we get to absolute proofs. We deal with science trying to like get us to these absolute proofs and be rational and grounded. And then ultimately it's philosophy that brings us to like the best absolute proof, the best form of absolute proof, which is ourselves, and that we're thinking being so. Yeah. One sec. I just started to rail what my hamster brain just read, and not that I need to ask, did you guys just hear the Pope found a fraud ring in the Vatican? Some cardinals going to jail now, like 8 others. By fraud ring, do we mean
pretty interesting theory.
Oh, thank you, Victor. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate it, bro. No, that's fucked though. Well, I mean, it's a giant cult, right? So that probably makes sense. It's a 2,000-year-old cult, or no, what is it? 1,700-year-old cult? Is it 1,700 years old? Whatever. Actually, that's a good question. How old? No, fuck. That's not what I mean. Christianity is. I'm not going to get into this. That's when Jesus lived. Anyway. Okay. Vatican court has sentenced Italian Cardinal Angelo Becci, a former advisor to the Pope, to 5.5 years in jail for financial crimes. He was on trial with 9 other defendants. All were convicted on some counts and found not guilty on others. Interesting. What were they involved in? Buying too much expensive wine? Out on the town? Back to aliens? Well, I mean, I guess it's still kind of relevant, right? We can go ancient aliens, right? The ancient alien meme, right? Yeah. Good Lord. Yeah, as people say. People were shitting on him pretty fucking hard for this, yeah. He's making a point that there's no reason to either believe or disbelieve in things that you have no way of verifying one way or the other. Yeah, there's no absolute proof of it, but and that's again, you know, I get what he was trying to say there, but equating it with Islam is not. Careful what I fucking say in here, but like, you know, it's not a straight up fantasy, right? We're not in the fucking straight up fantasies here, right? We should be able to actually, in regards to that, discern within like what's the fantasy and what's not, right? And that's what we really should be doing with it. So just let's use Christianity because it's less inflammatory, I guess, here in the West, oddly enough now. So, you know, it's going through the story of Jesus and picking out the parts that are clearly fucking nonsense, like him turning water into wine and him walking on water, which is sick, but like that's like fucking Marvel, like movies 2,000 years ago. And then picking out the real parts, right? Like the philosopher Jesus, right? Who walked around telling people to live a service to other lifestyle, right? Treat others as you like to be treated. Getting people to like actually think about like their actions, like their ethics, right? And in separating like, you know, the wheat from the chaff, right? The fantasy from reality. And then I think you could use that as an analogy too for like, you know, ufology, which is kind of a similar thing. It's separating the fantasy shit, right? The Pleiadians and the Lyrans and the Alpha Draconans, sorry, Galen TV, from reality, right? Which is like some of the crashes potentially and catastrophism. People talking to aliens about catastrophes. No, that's in with the fantasy probably, but it's separating those two things, right? So as much as I get Brian's point, at the same time I thought it's just not very it's just someone speaking in absolute ignorance. And I think there's some dogma there where he's just hesitant to speculate on it or dig into it even. I ran into this, you know, with people in academia that were reluctant to talk about these things, even like read about these things out of fear of what their colleagues might think, that they're associated with this kinds of stuff. And it's like, again, separating the woo, the bullshit from, you know, more grounded people. And I would always just reference Stanton Friedman because Stanton was an extremely grounded person, also a physicist who was extremely intelligent and did the groundwork and went through a lot of these accounts and found, and you can't remove the human element from this. I mean, again, ideally, in like a scientific fucking experiment, you don't want eyewitness fucking testimony, right? Okay, that's a given, right? But we're humans, and a part of this phenomena has interactions with people, with humans, and getting to know people and getting that human fucking perspective. Stanton spoke to this too, about meeting with Betty and Barney Hill, that, you know, something fucking happened to them, clearly. And, you know, they worked with accredited people to try and figure out what that is. It's a mystery. It's metaphysical. It's crazy. But it's not bullshit. So that's where we're left with it. It's worthy of further inquiry. And equating it with fucking fantasy doesn't help, because that's what we're trying to stop doing here. So anyway. Oh, yes. I thought I just read that. I did just read that. Oh, speaking of fantasy. Geologist Professor Ian Plimmer utterly demolishes the climate scam. So this has begun to ramp up because what's happened is we went from we're polluting the planet, which is like, fuck yeah, that's pretty goddamn clear. I mean, I just watched a video. They were up, I think it's in the Peruvian mountains, this guy. It's like the highest village in the world. And there's like very little oxygen. And it was just the streets were literally, they didn't have like pickup like for garbage and stuff. It just, the whole city is just full of garbage and shit. There's no sewer. They just like, it's shit. They take a shit and it just goes in on the street. It's like a horrific scene. Like, you know, there's a problem with pollution, clearly. Do we want to be driving around, you know, with cars spewing out fucking carbon dioxide, not just carbon dioxide, but other harmful chemicals as well? No, fuck no. No, we absolutely don't want that. Is that an excuse to tax everyone? No, it fucking isn't. Is there a threat from how much CO2 we're putting up into the atmosphere that at some point it's going to reach a dangerous level, a threshold, and kill us all? That's fucking highly debated. So I'm not, and you get into very heated emotional debates with people about this, and I have in the past, because what people equate this with is like they tie this to like, oh, well, you don't care about the planet then. Like, you don't give a fuck about the planet. Like, you could give a shit. Like, you probably throw banana peels out your car window thinking that's going to decompose, and it fucking doesn't. And it's like, yeah, I fucking do. Because eventually it will fucking decompose. But I still care about the planet. And what happens over time, is they blow up. Because they can't, and this is the thing. And again, I don't like getting into like conspiracy with this, but there is a bit of a cult around this, and unfortunately, as these idiots have kind of revealed their hands the last couple of years, the intention here is to control the population. And one of the ways they want to try and do that is they want to try and hold people accountable for being at a primitive state technologically, which is, burning fossil fuels. And that was maybe one way that they grasped onto that they might be able to try and get control over people, tax them, steal money from them, etc. So listen to my Coco keyboard mindless. You're trying to get the cars off the road with those banana peels like you're in damn Mario Kart. Only your car, Galen TV. And anytime I see you, I keep a thing of bananas, rotting bananas in my backseat from when I see Galen TV, and then I chuck them out the window. Yeah, it's just for you. Only for you, and maybe Dr. Krendel too. Just be glad it's not like fucking those spikes or whatever. But anyway, I'm gonna stop fucking rambling about this. It's something that's pissed me off. Actually, Al Gore pissed me off with An Inconvenient Truth when he told everybody back in 2016 when 2006. I was 16 years old. Okay, World of Warcraft had just come out. The last thing I want to fucking think about was we're all gonna fucking drown in what was the date he gave, like 2020 or something, right? The ice caps are all gonna be melted, we're all gonna be fucking drowned. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, this sounds like bullshit, and actually turned out to be complete bullshit, and the models they were using turned out to be absolute fucking bullshit. I'll just play the fucking video here.
We hear about climate scientists, whatever that is. Now, in geology, we have a 250-year track record of arguing about climate. Textbooks are full of it. We've been labouring about climate for a long while, and then there's this sudden new invention of climate science. And I had some of these when I was head of department at the University of Melbourne, and these are embittered, obscure, unemployable academics funded by your taxes.
Jesus.
And those taxes are to fund these people's hobbies. And the end result of that is that they put good people out of work and they cost our nation trillions. So there's one group of people that use models, another group of people, I mean, this is really sinful. We use evidence. And the two are not in accord. And if they're not in accord, you've got to throw out the models, which we've seen time and time again are incorrect.
Yes.
So we can look back in the past and we can see that we've had 6 great ice ages. During that ice age, we'll have the ice expand, that's a glaciation, or it will contract, that's an interglacial. We are currently in an interglacial of an ice age that started on a Thursday 34 million years ago. And the ice has come and gone. In our last interglacial, sea level was about 7 metres higher. Temperature was about 5 degrees warmer. So if someone says, oh, this is the hottest day on record, you have to ask, since when? If it's the hottest day in the last 120,000 years, then that is a record. But since when? So if we go to the peak.
If I'm going to play devil's advocate here, though, we've maybe only been anatomically correct for between 120 and pushing it 300,000 years. So if it's been the hottest day in 120,000 years, that could still objectively be a problem for us as people here on this planet. And as probably Ian will be transparent on, some of these ice ages ended pretty catastrophically. Our most recent one ended extremely catastrophically was a literal fucking apocalypse. So.
Of our interglacial, which was about 4,000 years ago, it was about 5 degrees warmer. So it's cooler than the hottest temperature on record. If we go to the time of Jesus, when it was warm, it's about 4 degrees cooler than then. If we go to the Dark Ages, go to the Viking Age, we've actually warmed up since then. If we go to the medieval warming, we've cooled down since then. And if we go to the Little Ice Age, we've warmed up since then. So since when? And I know this is going to surprise you, but we've just come out of a Little Ice Age. What do you think temperature's going to do? Fall or rise? It's been rising since the Maunder minimum more than 300 years ago. So it is no surprise that if you have cut-off times for temperature or for sea level or for hurricanes or whatever, you can spin whatever yarn you want to spin. These 6 great ice ages started when we had more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere than now. We have 0.04% of that gas in the atmosphere, and we hear words like emissions. Well, that means nothing to me, because the atmosphere has changed in its carbon dioxide content from over 20% to now, which is really low in geological time. If we halved it, all plant life would die. And animals would die.
Yeah. I like geologists. I like geologists. They're just very real. They're like, they're realists. They're just reminders of this great time scale here on planet Earth. And they're people that study catastrophic periods in Earth's history. They've seen the worst of the worst that many of us just aren't really perceptive or cognitive of. You know? And so when people talk about, well, things are going to get really bad, they're like, well, what's your version of bad? We've seen bad. We can see bad by studying the rocks and like the strata and the rocks. You know, and same with Robert Schoch going to Egypt and talking with the Egyptologists. So the Egyptologists are there just like fucking smoking hashish all day, right? Like, oh, fucking look, like, you know, they built these pyramids. They set it right here in this one fucking place, right? This one place says they did it. Look, they did it. And then Robert Schoch goes and looks at the fucking Sphinx as a geologist. The guy knows rocks and erosion and says, oh, fuck no, that's like 10, 12,000 years old. And they're like, oh, well, there's nothing that says that. It's like, well, yeah, probably not. They probably just came upon it, right? It's like, oh, well, that contradicts everything we've done, so no. It's like, that's the most beta fucking answer you could possibly have. Now, there are lots of people, I think, probably, who since have come back and been like, oh, that makes sense. But again, you get into the cults, right? You get into cults. People just want to believe, you know, whatever the version of reality is. So climate is changing, but it's not overwarming, and our dinosaur fires aren't killing the ozone. Effectively, did you? Yeah. Essentially, let the oil burn. Keep the machine going now. I think we desperately need to get onto a new source of energy. Personally, how do you guys think? But yeah, I don't think there's any like huge fucking panic to take nitrogen out of the fertilizer because of the potential negative, implications for that for the atmosphere, like more CO2. It's like I think we're more concerned right now with feeding people, right? But see, this is where this is where you get into like nefarious shit, where these people's real intentions were, which is shifting the conversation at some point to, yeah, there's just too many people though. That's what we were trying to get at, but like we couldn't really put it quite like that. But like really, it's like there's too many fucking people, right? And there's so many people like that we're losing control. So there's just too many people, and then that's really the intention, is that trying to fucking corral everybody, and they call it eugenics, which is like, you know, reducing the world's population down to more manageable size, but that they just don't want this many people, and that's ultimately where the conversation goes, and you find that this narrative that people are bad. Like, you run into people who are deeply into like the environmental movements. Listen, I'm right there from probably like 40% of it, but it starts going to like, people are the worst thing the planet has ever had. And it's like, okay, first of all, we're conscious beings. So before that, the Earth was just like fucking NPC city here. Beautiful, but like, what the fuck was the point? So is there bad things that people have done? Yes. I don't know. You gotta make a call. Okay, I will. Okay, I will. I don't agree with just because someone says it's getting warmer, we feel like this. We really felt that last 5 summers. It has been getting hot, yeah. I can see what goes on behind Bug Party. As long as I'm alive to see Whales so little, but I see Bring It On. Holy fuck, there you go. I say we start with whales. Oh my heavens. Let's hear what you have to say on this, Galen TV. What do you have to say on this, Galen TV?
Yeah, a couple things.
You don't believe?
But it's been a little while.
Yeah.
There will be like there's probably some truth in what there's truth in what you're saying, like that there's probably there's too many people, but
yeah,
it's not exactly as like a global thing. Perhaps the unfortunate reality of it is that it's very much like a localized in certain parts of the world. So there will be a big population decline over the next 20 years. Actually, one thing that I read today is that there is supposedly life expectancy has gone up this year by just a little bit, or over the past year. But a lot of the population right now, particularly in like what you would call Western nations, would be older. We'll take Canada, for example. Canada is a very old population. The United States has an older population as well. And I think a lot of the Western European countries have older, but I don't know the answer.
Japan is the oldest, I think.
So,
yeah. Well,
one thing that happened with that, Japan is a very old population, but I think there's like different reasons for that. One big reason for that is that a lot of the population would have happened during the baby boom, right? So, there's this, we'll say that dastardly word, boomers.
Oh, yeah.
They were the ones that there was a large population increase with during that generation. So what happens is you're starting to see a little bit of economic, backlash now. Now, you saw it a lot during 2020, and that was because, when that particular illness hit, nobody knew what was going on. So a lot of people would just retire during that time.
Yeah.
And they just said, well, I got like 3 or 4 years till I get my full retirement. I can get most of it now. This looks like there might be the apocalypse, so fuck it, I'll just take it now. So a lot of people, just got went out. That's one of the reasons why in Canada there's a quote unquote labor crisis. A lot of that is mostly centralized around things like healthcare. And that's because a lot of nurses and family doctors would have retired during that time. In fact, I think I saw somewhere in Canada that I think it's 7 million people in Canada don't have a family doctor right now. So
it's crazy.
Considering Canada has about a little bit over 40 million people, it's nearly a sixth of the there's a little bit over a sixth of the population. Next part with the population. So over the next 20 to 30 years, you should see a large decline in Western nations for population, and that's because there would be the chunk, particularly in Canada, the large chunk of population is just entering that retirement age. So you would see a lot of that. What you saw a few years ago is what you should have started to see about now, entering into 2024. But then you say, well, if that's the case, then how come the population is increased? How come there's this thought on there's too many people, or there's just going to be too many people, and the projections for world population only go up and up and up and up.
Yeah.
A lot of that has to do with a predicted population boom, particularly I think in Africa.
Yeah.
So I think that's if you look at population projections, most nations, like what you would call Western nations, are going to go down. They're going to go in a sharp decline, if anything. But I think a lot of African places are supposed to actually skyrocket in population. And what will happen then is the thought is that over time, in the next 100 years, I think it's supposed to curve out and supposed to normalize, given a status quo or all things being equal. Now, with India's population, India, I think, is on pace to surpass China, and I see you've got a thing there.
Yeah.
So that's because China's population rate has declined by quite a bit, or like the rate in which they're having children and whatnot. India, on the other hand, seems to have increased. But what's really strange about it then is you would say that, so why is that exactly problematic if that's the case? Because you would say that everything's going to like balance out, and a lot of it, I have a hunch that, and this was something, I have no idea how true this is, but what I have heard, particularly in Canada right now, is that there isn't enough money to actually pay off pensions because there's so many people that are in retirement age, or they're entering retirement age, and essentially not enough taxpayers in their working age. And that's supposedly a reason why there's been a lot of immigration into the country.
Well, that's... Yeah.
Anyway, that's the gist of my little spiel. Thanks for opening phone lines for me.
No problem. You can hang around. It's crazy when you look in India was below 0.5. Now they're at 1.48 billion. Same with China. Also massive population explosion. Yeah, I mean, what failed here? Zach saying, that's a good question, actually. A lot of things. I think there's a lot of things, I guess, that probably contributed to this happening. I mean, cost of living is something that has been a problem here, definitely, in the Western world. People in some of these other nations, the basic cost of living. Now, the how do we say it? The standard of living is much lower in some of these countries, but the cost of living is also much lower. So like here, if you really want a family, you don't want to fucking go nuts. You need to be making a good amount of money. Some of these other countries, it's still difficult, but like to feed your family here is quite difficult right now. In some of these other countries, I've heard from people from these other countries, it's not as difficult to feed your family. To house your family can be difficult though. Like in China, for instance, in a bigger city, like they've got like generational mortgages out for like fucking apartment or like condos, and like their whole family lives there.
It's kind of a, I don't know if scary is the right word to say that, but there has been some discussion of bringing that over into North America. I think part of the reason why you can get away with that in certain areas and not in other areas is because I may be mistaken here, and if somebody, please feel free to rectify any errors that I may make here in this statement. But I think it's generally in Chinese, I guess, culture, we'll say, generally the custom is that the parents. So you have a family, you have a house that would have 2 grandparents, 2 parents, and then children. So it's custom that the parents go out and work, and they work pretty much all day, and the grandparents stay home and they look after the children. But the family household would have, upwards of like, 6, 7 people in there, and you would have 3 generations living together. Yeah. Whereas particularly in North America, the old mentality was, and that's shifting a little bit now, but the old mentality was, once you're 18, you're no longer leeching off mom and dad. You're going to go out and you're going to live on your own, because that's how we do things here in this country.
Chinese girlfriends is true. There you go. Yeah.
And what happens then with that is you create a kind of a system that it's expected that you have, like, you be like a certain what kind of happens. Let me just reorganize my thought here. I guess let me think about this for a second. Actually, I'll come back to you.
Yeah. I mean, it is a very selfish culture. It's very independent, I guess, was the idea that it was built upon independence. I think back in the day that was great, but What I think in like Canada, for instance, is the federal government should be maybe handing out some of this federal land to people again, a little bit cheaper, right? We should be helping people get into places to live. Like we should be trying to help our population go up. Now, listen, these conversations about immigration could get pretty nasty pretty quick. There was a political contributor on Twitter named Eva something. She's like some Norwegian political person. She was making a comment about how in Europe there are a lot of immigrants, and they're a little bit more xenophobic in Europe. The West, North America was built on immigration, so people in the United States and Canada were far more welcoming, I think. But the issue they're running into there, I guess, is some of these immigrants aren't really sharing Western values, right? And her thing is like, well, what we need to do immediately to save Europe is we need to essentially close all the borders and then engage in shipping everybody out. What was the word she used? A pretty dangerous word. I was just in my head a second ago.
Exodus?
Well, not an exodus, but a forced exodus where they're going to essentially round everybody up
and exiling.
And mass exiling, which, I mean, you need to be real careful about. There are tons of people from all over the world that are just coming to these places because they're just better fucking places to live. Now, the question, though, you have to ask yourself with this kind of stuff, what you have to be cognitive of is you can't let too many people in. You do need to be kind of careful with immigration because you want to maintain like that balance where it's still a great place to live. All right. And again, tons of great people from all over the world coming in is awesome. But that's the issue with illegal immigration, I think, because you're letting in a bunch of people. You don't know who they are. You know what their intentions are. And through history, I'm not a fucking historian, but I know there are a couple ancient cultures who literally kind of fell from, being invaded, essentially. And people come in there and they don't give a fuck about the place. They're not from there. They're just looking, especially if you're a bunch of young men, to just loot and pillage and fucking, ransack and just go, because they don't give a fuck, because when they know the worst thing is going to happen, they're just going to get shipped back home. So they might as well have fun. So, I'll just read through some of the comments here, guys. Sorry. Punishing you because you can no longer get taxed. The Millennium Moron guy had a really good take on that immigration issue. Actually, I saw that once in a movie. It was called Schindler's List. Oh, fuck yeah. Well, I know that's right. Like, might be a scene there somewhere. Canada has been a good railroad system, so we could use trains. Jesus Christ. Yeah. Have to contribute to society. Very delicate balance. This is exactly it, Zach. Yeah. Thinking if you have to be able to contribute to society. You can't just ship everybody over here to politically virtue signal and then, let them live off of welfare. And like that just doesn't fucking work. You have to contribute something. Like, yeah.
There was an article that I found actually the other day, and it was talking about this back in 2012, I think. And what it had said was that there was a consensus among, economists, politicians, etc. And they would say that they were all in agreement that Canada had to increase its population. And then you say, the first question you ask is, why? Why is there like this obsession with growth? But it's not necessarily just growth, it's like unsustainable growth in one sense. So which is another issue in economics that's been going on, can you like continues unsustained growth, or is there any time where one would not want to consider growth in any case, or is it always just better to grow, whatever it's a business, the country, your economy, your income, whatever? Is there any time where it's not better to do that? But anyway, that's beside the point. Oh shoot, what was I saying here? Going back to the other comment that I was going to say about the generational wealth is that I guess one thing, I guess I should start out with one thing is you were talking a little bit about having a unified culture. So
melting pot, yeah.
The question about that then is what does that unifying culture, what would that be? So let's stay here in Canada then for that, because we kind of know we kind of know Canada. Maybe we don't know all parts of Canada, but we kind of know Canada. there was back at this article that I read. One of the claims on it was that supposedly this is part of just a large social experiment. Now I don't know how valid that claim would be, but that would be is that this is an idea just to see if you can get everybody from many different backgrounds to live together under one nation and cooperate. So the thought would be is like the city of Toronto would be very much a blueprint for that, and that's what some people would say going back a few years is that Toronto is a city that it would be I think it's considered the most international city in the world.
Yeah,
it functions. It functions. It might not function optimally, but it functions. And at the time, that would be considered like a huge. I don't want to say the word victory, but like it was quite something. Now, I don't know how you would say that's the case now, because I think crime has gone up quite a bit in the Greater Toronto area. It's up across Canada, but I don't know. I've heard just talking to people that have lived in the Greater Toronto area and whatnot. They say that crime it's not a great place. It's not. So there are some places that aren't as good anymore.
Yeah, I was just there recently. Yeah, it's a very. There's a lot of. It seems like a segregated city, honestly. Like there's a couple different big cultures there, and they're kind of segregated. Now it depends. Like as the generations progress, people start to kind of meld more. But there are a lot of new immigrants that have made Toronto home, and I think it seems segregated, and it's a problem I think you get with like melting pots.
I think so. There's one thing that you're talking about with what was it, federal land, or giving out land again?
Yeah.
So there was one thing I remember talking about this years ago. Just I can't remember with who it was, but let's go back a couple of years to 2021. Do you remember what happened in Nova Scotia at that time in 2021? It had to do with the fishermen.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Yes, the Native American fishermen. Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Anybody who's not familiar with it, the general idea with it is that, as I understand it, anyway, and again I could be wrong with this, is that they're fishing is a big economy, big part of Nova Scotia's economy, and a lot of that fishing is for lobster in the Bay of Fundy.
Yeah,
and so there was an indigenous tribe that lives in the area, and they're known as the Mi'kmaq. And the Mi'kmaq wanted to fish the lobster as well, and they wanted to sell it at their local markets. But they wanted to sell it undercut what the fishermen would sell them for. Now you imagine that the fishermen did not like that one bit.
Yeah.
So they go and they I think they talked to they send a complaint to the government or something.
Yeah.
I think it's what it was. So it comes back that what's written in law is it's that the agreement is that with the indigenous people in Canada that you're allowed to live off the land, and you're allowed to do like what you call I guess fish live off the land, hunt, fish and whatnot for what is reasonable. And that's the key word, is what is reasonable. Now, as a fellow philosopher, Mr. Jim, the first thing that should go off your mind is, what the hell does reasonable mean?
Yeah, that's true.
What's that statement? And there's no definition for what is reasonable.
Yeah.
There is no definition for that. So, essentially, the government just said, well, you guys figure it out yourself. Well, here's what happened. Fishermen did not like that one bit.
Yeah.
In fact, they disliked it so much that they went over to one of the Mi'kmaq storehouses and they burned it down.
Yeah, I mean, they burned their boats too, did they not?
I don't know if they burnt the boats, but they may very well have done that.
I thought they burned a boat or two, yeah.
What had So, the government, I think, still, as I understand, I don't know if this actually ever did just get resolved, but I know there were a lot of places in Nova Scotia that said they would stop serving lobster to show solidarity to the indigenous group. Now, this may be a hot take, as one might say, but I don't know how that shows solidarity for anything at that point. Like, it just seemed like it was just like a weird, as you would say, virtue signal. But I mean,
oh my god, yeah.
It was for lack of a better phrase, it was an absolute clusterfuck that I don't think actually had any solution to it. So,
yeah.
Why did I bring up that story? Let's go back to federal land. Well, if you start handing out this land, of course people are going to say, well, that land sucks. I don't want that land. Cold there. It's not farm. It's no agriculture value. It sucks. You fracked in this land. There's a bunch of fracking all over. I don't want this land.
It's fracked, yeah. Yeah.
And then you say, well, and we're giving the land to you. And you say, well, of course you're giving it to me. It's worthless. But I want that land over there. And then they say, well, you can't have that land. We need that land. Well, why do you need that land? Well, because we're going to frack there. You say, the hell you are. We're going to frack there. Because you gave us the land. And you get into an argument. We get into a kind of like a weird argument there.
Yeah. You may be able to, like, I don't know, in regards to the Native American thing. For people that aren't aware, maybe who are international, there was an agreement that was made between the Native Americans here in Canada and the I guess the settlers that to lessen the damage that was done, the Native Americans have special kind of access to like hunting and fishing and whatnot, and as opposed to like people here that are subject to like rules around like over like kill and all that shit and like excessive culling. They are not subject to these rules. They can also hunt endangered species, I think, sometimes up in the northern parts, like the Inuit.
They were allowed to maintain their livelihood.
Yes.
Per ancient, or not, I shouldn't say ancient, traditional, I guess, livelihood, for lack of a better phrase.
Yeah.
And the agreement is that you're only allowed to take what is reasonable.
What is reasonable?
What the hell does reasonable mean?
Yeah, it was exactly it. And you know, there's many of these communities. They live on reservations, and reservations are like areas of land that were given to them, the native population, and these reservations have effectively become in many places like ghettos. It didn't work out very well, and there is a lot of animosity here in Atlantic Canada. Like, they're hunting all over Canada, but in like the province of New Brunswick, where we are, there's animosity among hunters, like moose hunters, that, you know, it's a special thing to get like a license to kill a moose here, and sometimes people will find remains of these creatures just in the woods, butchered like by people, and who are Native American people who are not subject to these same kinds of licenses and stuff, and it's a whole fucking thing. And then the lobster thing was Galen TV was just mentioning as another example of that, and it just got really fucking like messy. But
what does this have to do with seeing segregation in cities? So, one of the things when you're giving out land and whatnot, that's often what a lot of people that are new to the country will go through. So in the city where we live, like many other cities, there's a newcomer center and whatnot, and I think the YMCA helps find homes for newcomers to Canada.
They do, yeah.
So they have like a house that they would stay at. They might stay there, I think, with like maybe a couple other families, and before they're able to find somewhere for them to live, whether that's an apartment or that would be some other house. Now, this is an organization. What do businesses usually try to do? You try to make things, cheap, or try to maximize, I guess, what they can do with it. So that is, in other words, sometimes they're often pretty cheap.
Yeah.
Now, I shouldn't say that with the Y, because I don't know if the Y is actually a business per se, but Anyway, point being is that where a lot of people are going to end up, they're going to end up in pretty bad parts of towns. A lot of people that I talk to, you know, they would talk about how other people they would know from like their hometown, if they're coming from wherever country, they'd end up on one particular street in the place that we live. And they say they would last about 2 weeks to a month on that area before they said, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah.
And the point is that often you're sent to, well, the idea would be, is the equivalent would be, is that suppose that we go and we move to like a different country and we don't really have that much money, but we're looking for something that we can do. Where do you think we're going to end up? We're going to end up probably wherever like the rent is cheapest. Where is the rent usually the cheapest? The bad parts of the city, or the not so good parts where other people don't want to live.
Yeah.
So what happens then is that you start to put a lot of people into these kinds of places, and that ends up being the only place they can actually stay, because everything else, particularly around where we live, everything else is more expensive. What happened was our housing and renting prices used to actually be like pretty good. It was everything else is more expensive that made up for it. Now everything else is just expensive.
Yeah.
So what happens then is that you're almost subject into living into like these kind of, we'll say, not so great conditions, and then thus life moving to Canada, maybe it's better, maybe it's not as good, but it's not as good as what one hopes it would be. If you're trying to do this en masse, you end up doing even more, I guess, you create even more of these kinds of situations.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happens when this article that I said I was reading, it was from like 10 years ago. Well, I guess it would have been 12 years ago now, because I think it was 2012. And it said that that's what kind of happens, is part of it would be is that, yes, it would maybe create more, it would grow the economy, but that wealth distribution isn't going to be as, let's say, equal as one would hope, as perhaps one might think it would be. Instead, what would happen is it's kind of what you see is that there's a widening gap between what you call upper class and lower class, and the middle class becoming a thing of the past. Anyway, forgive me for going on about this. Is
well, no. I mean, it's it's definitely something that's talked about a lot here right now, all over the world, actually. But it's in many Western places because, you know, we sold this idea of wealth to the world, kind of, really. And they come here looking for that hope for a new world. And we sold our culture to all of these other places in the world as well. So they come here looking for that culture, right? Excess. And that's what happened. Yeah. Yeah, Zach. Yeah, and Turkey's an interesting situation because you were in the West, but you're bordering, you know, many of these places in the East and the Middle East. So, but yeah, it's something that I don't know. It's a fine. There was a good quote actually. I don't know if I liked this post on Twitter or not. I don't know if I did, but I don't think I did because I don't really like what she had to say. I was gonna comment on it. Eva. Oh, I forget what her fucking name is. Oh, right here.
Is that Eva Longoria?
No. That's a name I haven't heard in a while. It's this girl here. I see her on all over Twitter. Holy shit, she posts a lot. Where was the post she made about there having to be a removal of people, like kicking people? She may have deleted the post. Oh God, but there was a good retort to it, but it was essentially that, you know, at first we were like too kind, letting too many people in. Like you go from these spectrums, like we were too kind and then had to deal with the problem. We might have to be like too harsh. We're going to go to the other extreme to have to deal with it. And it's like, again, finding that balance in the middle. Caitlin's 90s crush. Yeah, absolutely.
I actually probably only found out about her because she was married to this one guy that was a basketball player that was for like a dynastic team, I guess you would say at the time.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. Here's the post. And now, again, I don't like this kind of stuff sometimes because it's out of context and, you know, like, just give me a fuck's sake. African men unable to relate to concept of rape trauma. Now, I've known many guys from Africa, and many places in Africa are like fucking first world, culture. Like some large cities in Africa are like first world. So like people come over here and they'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, that's fucked. Like, but it's like African men. So you've got a small group of very impoverished, right, men from Africa who've come in, who probably are very traumatized. There's a lot of war-torn areas in Africa, and maybe don't understand what this guy's talking about here. So her thing is, if we want European civilization to survive, we need to not just close the borders, but start mass expulsions immediately. We don't stand a chance unless we start that process very soon. That's very strong rhetoric. I just... Yeah, we let this happen in the name of compassion. Now we pay the price. We must become ruthless again. That was kind of what's happening now, a little bit. But you're getting this. This guy's a fucking idiot. I forget what his name is, but he was on InfoWars. Like, there are people here that are like, and I don't throw around this word lightly, but like legitimate racists. And it's just I don't know what to think of it. Yeah, it's just it's finding somewhere in the middle. There are so many extremes right now. And again, is there a problem with too much immigration? Well, yeah, we've been talking about that potentially. But I don't know about mass expulsions. Really, I think one of the issues that our culture has run into here in the West, especially in Europe where they're dealing with a lot of violence, is they strip the public their right to defend themselves. In the United States, this isn't as much of a problem. I mean, it's the Wild West there, right? And not everybody wants to live in the Wild West, but at the very least, they have the right to defend themselves, and they're not going to get fucking dragged into jail for defending themselves against some violent attack, right?
How do you mean defend yourself?
Well, that's a good question. We'd have to define that, I guess. But
do you mean like stand your ground laws?
Yeah, we'd have to be more specific because you have to be careful with stand your ground laws.
Yeah, because I think those ones are the ones where you like somebody goes onto your property, you legally are allowed.
You can
to shoot
them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Yeah.
I think that's only in certain, like, I think Florida has that. I don't know if Texas.
I think Texas, New Mexico, Nevada, Arizona may have, like all the southern kind of states. Definitely, there's probably variations on. There's limitations to it. Like, if someone's trying to break into your house, for instance, you're allowed to shoot and kill them. There's a video on YouTube which is quite dark, but this girl's frantic ex-boyfriend started to try to kick in their door to get to the girl. And the girl's father was at home and was essentially yelling to the kid, buddy, do not come in here. Don't kick my door down violent. I'm going to shoot you. And he warned him 3 times, and the kid, fucking stupid, didn't listen, shot through his door, killed him. And the guy was let off because essentially he was warned multiple times. He was on his property. He clearly had intent, like, to harm his daughter and or his family. He defended himself. In that situation in Canada, you go to jail. Using that kind of violence in that situation, that would be very difficult. I'm not a lawyer, but I was reading about this recently. It's a gray fucking area. And I know in Europe they have a similar issue. Well, for instance, you can't even fucking firearms in many places in Europe. They're completely outlawed. So you're unable to defend yourselves in the event of such violence. So, sorry, what were you gonna say, Galen TV?
Do you mean to defend yourself like in a disarm, or do you mean defend yourself as into what's the word? Render obsolete, I guess.
I would say render obsolete. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you're not allowed to just You can't defend yourself with firearms, Canada either. Really, you go to jail. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, that's exactly it. Did you? It's a gray area. Yeah.
Aren't you? You're supposed to use something like some kind of like pepper spray or something now, aren't you?
Well, and that's like fucking ridiculous too.
That would be like how you'd like disarm, I think.
Yeah, and again, it's like let's say
subdue. That's the word I'm looking for.
Subdue. Yes. Disarm. Yeah. Let's say you're 100-pound woman and you've got 3 huge fucking guys trying to kick your door in, and you've got a thing of pepper spray. Is that thing of pepper spray going to subdue the? Let's say, or let's make it even more fun. Let's say they're on fucking drugs, and not just any kind of drugs, methamphetamines, right? And they got one thing on their mind. Do you think that pepper spray is going to stop them from getting through that door and getting what they want? Absolutely.
If it's strong enough, it
not.
might.
No, I don't fucking think so.
I don't know. Have you seen like how
I don't. Yeah, man.
Have you seen like how strong those? Have you been sprayed? Have you been sprayed by pepper spray?
Yeah. Yeah. I actually no, I haven't been. Have you?
No, I haven't. I made that seem like I was.
You did. No, we're both pussies. We haven't fucking been pepper sprayed. Yeah. You've been sprayed once. It sucks. Yeah. I suppose it could. Yeah. 3 days on meth.
Mace
yeah.
is the other one too.
Yeah.
What about if you had like instead of like a spray, you had like an acid spray or something, like a sulfuric acid spray? Would that work?
Well, but then you're getting into like you're probably going to fucking kill these people. So like, why don't you just use a gun?
So, that's true.
It's yeah. But anyway, I think Europe they don't have any firearms allowed whatsoever. Knives are banned in like the UK. Even people in the UK are going to test this. But like there's very little you can do. Like it's not. And the problem, if you're a person, this is the other problem, is good people are at a disadvantage always, because especially when you're dealing with criminals or people that have nothing to lose. Let's say you're a middle-aged like lawyer or something, or you're a doctor, or you're just a business person, right? You've got everything going for you, and you get encountered by somebody who's a straight-up fucking criminal. A couple of them, let's say. What do you have to lose, and what do they have to lose? They have nothing to lose. They've probably already been in jail. They probably just were in jail and got out again because the court system's so tired of fucking having to deal with them, right? So they come up to you and they threaten to beat you to a fucking pulp, right? If you don't give them, what they want. Let's say you try and respond to defend yourself. What's going to happen if you put them into a fucking coma now? You're probably going to be made an example of, or you're going to be treated more harshly, unfortunately. Because it's the optics of it, and this has happened time and again. And I have heard this from the inside of many places that people, pretty horrendous criminals, get let out very early because we just can't. We don't have to deal with them. But it's people who end up having to try to defend themselves against people that have nothing to lose that get convicted so harshly. And it's absolutely unacceptable. Now, I don't want to create a situation either. This is delicate, where you just start open carrying, and the fucking crackhead that comes up to you looking for like a Subway sub, you just blow his brains out. It's like he was threatening me. How dare he encroach into my space and breathe my air? It's like you can get like fucking like pretty twisted. It's like what's happened in the U.S. Like some old guy shoots the paper boy because he went on his fucking lawn. And he's like, yeah, and like the way he was walking up to my fucking porch, so I blew his fucking brains out, and stand your ground, fucking, he gets let off, right? It's like, all right.
Would you be in favor of a Minority Report kind of situation?
Oh, fuck, no.
That would prevent all of this.
It would prevent life, Galen TV.
Hey.
Yeah.
It would prevent a lot of this problem stuff.
Would it? Yeah. That's logic, right?
It would prevent everything. It would imply a fatalistic world then, in that, if you could accurately predict who is going to commit the crime when, then you would say that, isn't that just beyond all of their actions? Could they not be held accountable for their actions then? Could they really be punished in that situation?
Yeah.
Yeah?
That's a good question. Yeah. You can't even carry a screwdriver. Holy fuck. Yeah. Meanwhile, the cops have MP5s next to the politicians. That's exactly it, though. Yeah. So I just, it just drives me. I think that we recently had pistols banned here in Canada. And when you disarm the public like that, man, it's just a bad fucking idea. I mean, creating a more dependent general public too is just never a good idea either. Not that I am for mandatory military service or anything at all, but I think it's just moving in the wrong fucking direction, honestly. And this is the other problem too, the optics of this. This is something that I think people in the West didn't really anticipate when they created these little bubbles where people were completely disarmed, is when you bring people in from these other countries, these war-torn places, right? Because many places in the world are war-torn that aren't like first world nations. And they come in, they see a group of kind of weak people that can be taken advantage of. And it's unfortunate, but that's kind of how I think many of these people see these countries in Europe, is that they're just kind of ripe for the picking. You will attract a lot of people that don't have good intentions. The U.S. is different. Now, the U.S. has its own struggles along the border, but the U.S. is a little bit more prickly, where it's like, first of all, in the event of any kind of war, you never want to invade that country because people are far too armed. Like, it'd be a fucking mess. Like,
there's
too many
like
guns.
natural choke points in the middle that it'd be very, very hard to invade the U.S.
Well,
also on
again,
as well,
there's more guns floating around there than anywhere on fucking planet Earth, essentially. On top of everything else, I mean, like the people there, due to the laws, they're allowed to protect themselves. Now, has that created some fuck situations? Sure. Are there fuck situations created here where people try to defend? Absolutely. So, anyway, it's just, I personally think it's unwise. I am not an advocate for fucking guns. I've never shot a gun in my life. But I definitely think it's a bad idea to have a public that's completely disarmed. The optics of it are also, I think, objectively a bad idea. But this is like, I don't fucking know. There are wiser people than myself that have spoken on this, and I think there's a lot of very good points to be made from that argument that kind of outweigh the other argument, which is to disarm everybody and create a little bubble where the police are going to look after you all the time and the military is going to step in and look after you. And I think that's very naive in that, the biggest culprit for human death in in human history, actually, have been governments, tyrannical governments. So, yeah, stealth ban was bullshit. Assault style ban, yeah. That Hussein society has ever seen psychological treatment. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I don't know. It's fucking, it's hard to say.
Now, do you suppose that a lot of this crime would go away if those great little pencil-necked aliens came down and they tried to take our land over?
It's a good question, actually. I don't know. I mean, that's
another thought for having disclosure, is that you create a unifying banner for humanity. All of a sudden, if you didn't like your neighbor, that squabble or the beef you had with your neighbor seems so pale in comparison when you've got these aliens that are up to no good and they're trying to take away your planet.
Flying around. Fucking, yeah. Well, I mean, maybe that's a narrative that's going to start here, but I mean, this is the thing with that one too. If we're going to speculate like that far, I think that probably they would have already done it by now. But then people will come in and they'll swing in and be like, oh, well, they're doing it covertly. And it's like, well, why would they do it covertly?
Do you think you would have like what was that movie, District 9? A District 9 situation if the aliens came down?
I just don't. I just highly doubt. Again, well, but like the thing is, if they make it here, they have to be, this is the other thing too, I think in like even speculations about this, I think we sometimes forget that they'll be more advanced, not just technologically, but like culturally. And that what will that look like? I mean, I think our version is like we're gonna become like space pirates. Like we'll just pollute the universe. There'll be trash everywhere. Like, but I think probably when you really think about it, they would just be more honed, like completely, like psychologically, like like intellectually, culturally, technologically. They'd just be more advanced spiritually. Even if you want to get into like woo, like the fundamental nature reality stuff, like their whole perception would just be more evolved. And because of that, I think I can't imagine we'd end up in a District 9 situation. I think inevitably any interaction with the species like that is going to be enlightening.
Well, what if suppose you find like the group of aliens and they're say about where humanity would have been at the time of the space shuttle launch, when they were going to take the manned missions to the moon.
Yeah.
But when they were trying to explore their moon, instead they found a derelict spaceship in orbit that was starting to decay. But instead of trying to reverse engineer the spaceship, they just kind of took it over because the spaceship could be piloted by, say, like our equivalent of a 5-year-old or something. So they were more just handed this technology without an understanding of a said technology, and they just kind of band together as a bunch of space pirates, and they ended up on Earth. Thus, they were not technologically more advanced. They were not socially or psychologically more advanced. But they merely just landed in the junkyard, and they didn't know any better. Now, are you trying to tell me that these aliens would take over the planet? That we wouldn't just subjugate them to some kind of ghetto lifestyle in Johannesburg, Africa? South Africa?
That's a good question. Where'd our fucking soundboard go in Discord? I don't have my my sounds anymore.
Here, I think this is what you're looking for.
Wash these balls.
Where'd you find that?
It's in the bottom left corner, I guess. Actually, this is
Pretty interesting theory.
That's probably more apt.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Where's the sounds go? Oh, I see. It was... I don't have any. That's annoying.
It's a little like megaphone thing.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay. Yeah. Oh, there it is now. It's back. Yeah.
Literally wash these balls.
Yeah. Fuck. I don't... It's hard to say. I mean, maybe that could be the case that they just were like... They were handed the stuff and they're space pirates, and maybe there's some of that out there. Maybe that's what we'll become, though, consequently, if we fucking... You know, if we deal with them, we'll get like a jump in tech maybe we weren't supposed to have, and that's what'll happen. We'll go out in the universe and just fucking pollute the whole goddamn thing. But
going back a little bit to our economics discussion, do you think that's like one of the legit reasons for why there's so much secrecy around it? That it's a hoarding of technology?
That's a good question. That's what this guy thinks. Here, I'll pull up his fucking thing here in the background. Steven. That's what Steve.
Like I said, it's a nice segue.
Steven is. I don't know if I don't particularly want to watch this, but I'm not going to watch it probably. But I'll just pull it up. But that's what Steven thinks. That there's been a sect, a group of people that were able to successfully back engineer it or got the tech, and that they've been flying around. They have moon bases. They have bases on Mars. All this fucking wacky shit, and that's happened. But I don't know. I just think, Ripple Moon. Yeah, I can pull that up too. Yeah, that was the contrails Digi, actually. That's one explanation, but to be honest, some of the videos, if they're all real, who knows? It'd be kind of interesting. But there's another phenomena too, an atmospheric phenomena that may lead to that, actually. Which I thought was interesting. I've seen. But I just who knows if this is like deep speculation. But again, it's like, and this may come when we dig deeper into like the nature of reality and stuff, that maybe like it isn't like a free-for-all out there. That would be maybe very disappointing as well for us if it wasn't like a free-for-all, like we think it's going to be, but it's not. That I don't know. I have an intuition around that too, because when you look at the phenomena and when you look at all the wacky accounts, like this is spoken about time and again. And if there's any truth to any of it, then I don't know. We have to look at those claims so that there's maybe some kind of governance out there, governing interactions. Maybe even us as well. We're not really cognitive of it yet, right? Like we're too, like kind of like North Sentinel Island, where India is monitoring all traffic in and out of that area because it's kind of a preserved area. That there could very well be a government involved in like even monitoring us to some degree, maybe even controlling us, right? I mean, it could be like a Deus Deceptor almost, like behind the veil, kind of guiding and slowly kind of pulling back, reeling in at times, things that we're doing. I mean, to what degree it's functioning, we have no idea maybe. It could be involved in tons of stuff in our reality. It could be involved in like chance. It could be involved in even people coming here and having discoveries and leading us forward. And I don't know, how wacky is it? How crazy is it? I mean, that's the other thing too. It's like with the whole disclosure thing, it's like the idea that it's just like people from other planets, which I think is probable. But what becomes unveiled, I guess, as well. Like, I'm just going to read through some of the comments. Yeah, I think that the Ripple Moon is, I've only just seen it the first time. Oh, really? Yeah. I don't know if you heard, you said it might not be real. And I'm like, alien video just posted for vanilla. Oh, yes. Which one was that again? Did you see the alien video? Was this the Trailer Park Alien? Is this it here? Is this what you're talking about? Shitpost Sundays. Please everyone hear a game called Control. It's about the secret fringe science ministry in America that receives orders from the another dimension, our cup of tea. Oh, the game is called Control. Interesting. Secret fringe science industry in America that receives orders from another dimension. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it's kind of like Michael Newton's books. I've referenced him here before, but he's a psychologist who was into like doing past life regressions. But it's effectively what the book is about. It's about people in trance speaking from this other place, this other side of reality, and telling him about like the nature of reality and that it's all kind of an illusion, and that it serves a purpose, and that there are other worlds, and these other worlds are started intentionally, right, behind the scenes to kind of create this experience for these beings to have. And it's a cool idea. It's just a cool, I don't know. I vibe with it. Yeah. The video, you got a thumbs up, but no, I just posted an interview. Trailer Park Boys, Dope Beats. Yeah. Okay. I did pull it up. Which one was it? A second here. Might be too far. Where am I? Wow, forbidden knowledge. Here, I just posted it. Oh, nice. Oh, Project Blue Book. Alien. Oh, the alien interview. Oh, this. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. This is like the better CGI one. There was the classic one back in the day.
That one. I remember that.
There was a classic one back in the day, the Coast to Coast one. That was like a huge meme. But yeah, from your future. So spooky. It's always Hollywood always creates the aliens as like some menacing force that's like intimidating. I think inevitably they would be intimidating if they're more advanced, but they're always like, they always have like bad intentions or something, like, or they're just very like emotionless and like crass, and they just don't really care about us. Like, I don't know, or they find us like just as a resource, and that we're uninteresting is another bend too. Like,
well, imagine if you're in the alien situation, you'd probably be the same way.
Would you though? Like, think about Star Trek. Like, you probably would look at this civilization and be like, holy shit, like another group of like conscious beings. Like, what the fuck? There's just like horses and like fucking dumb animals all over the galaxy. Like, finally, conscious beings. Like, it'd be a rare thing.
I remember reading this, or not reading, listening. Is when I listened to like a couple episodes about a year ago of like that guy Lex Friedman. He had this one guy on that was talking about economics and aliens. And one of the things that he talked about was that, and what you're seeing a lot of in our economic system, our world, our society right now, is a lot of what you call anti-competitive behavior. So anti-competitive behavior is that instead of trying to outdo or produce like a better product than like another company, and just say that purchase our product or our service is better, what you see a lot of is because some companies are so rich now or have so much money that you can essentially just buy out the other company and then just dissolve it, liquidate it, I guess. Is what you would say. So that once you get enough money, and you can see this process is called like gentrification, is kind of what we were talking about before, is that you get somebody that's wealthy and they can go into like a neighborhood or an area that is historically has like very low property values, buy it all up, sell it, and then all of a sudden those property values all go up. So that's what Digi just said there. That's partly what Amazon did, is that you can just essentially start to buy out other companies even if they make something better than what you're doing. It's better for you to just buy out the other company and just say like, we'll just trash this. We're good with the product we can make because we can make it cheaper because we got these deals here, here, and here to buy these parts or for this service, instead of like producing the better product. So that's what this guy was saying, and he said that in order for an intelligence to become spacefaring, or to get to the point that you would say these aliens would have to be to go out and conquer the universe, if you will, conquer the galaxy, they would have to be a very competitive society that they would come from. Because that's the only, if you have anti-competitive, you get stagnation. and you won't really get innovation. And that's how you get innovation, is through like hyper competition or through like a lot of competition. So in order to get through with this competition, with that, you would essentially start to look at everything as like resources. And you would start to treat, instead of treating people, like people, you treat people as a resource, laborers.
Now, what's something else that happens in hyper-competitive societies? What happens when two hyper-competitive societies run into each other?
There's a big battle.
And what happens if there's like 10 on the planet? Then there's a huge battle. And then what happens?
Well, the best society just buys out the other societies.
Yeah.
And then there's no battle.
We could maybe. I mean, this is something. I don't know how many examples of this that we have, really. There's a couple, I guess, in the 20th century of like communist societies, but I don't know how many like truly altruistic egalitarian societies have cropped up that aren't, bred on competition. Now, nature is, right? So you could look to that and say, well, then that probably makes sense that it would breed innovation. But I don't know, cooperation too is a huge component of innovation. Science, for instance.
I shouldn't say that's the only part of innovation. That's just one aspect of it.
Yeah, and I think cooperation is definitely something that is very necessary. I mean, you can have, you can have the necessity breeds innovation, the invention, yes, but you can also have extreme examples of that, just like you can have extreme examples like communism. You can go the opposite end of the spectrum too. And I think, I don't know, it's hard to say. I mean, a hyper competitive society, but we don't know ultimately. But I would speculate maybe it might just destroy itself eventually. It would just consume itself. So? Well, I don't know. Maybe it might, but you could see a society that's bred and built on cooperation. Creativity would thrive, I think. So you could look at the necessity breeds invention, and I think necessity does, absolutely. That's not debatable. But competition, I don't know. Well, it could be debated if competition does. It would help it, but I don't know. And sometimes creativity thrives in those places, but sometimes not so much. So then we could say if we lived in a more like kind of egalitarian society where people had their needs met and they were focused on competition as much, maybe they'd be more artistic, maybe they'd be more creative. I mean, it's hard to say. You
can still be competitive and be a creative, artistic person.
Oh, well, yeah, and that's true. I think you can be. I think there's definitely a balance. But
let me propose these little bits to you here. So this might be not the best example, but I'm gonna go with this one anyway.
Yeah.
Do you know why the mile is measured out how it is? Or do you know like the story behind that? It's a short story.
That's a good question. Let's hear it. Yeah, I don't know if I'm familiar.
The mile was thought to be the fastest that any human being, that was the peak potential that any human being could run in, I think, 4 minutes.
Right.
Was what the distance of a mile was. And for thousands of years, what it was is that you could say that, okay, this distance from here to here, this is going to be 4 minutes, this is going to be what's referred to as a mile. Nobody can surpass that. And it didn't happen until some guy decided, I'm going to run faster than it. And that happened, I don't know, like 100 years ago or something. It might have been longer than that. I can't remember what it was. But it was some guy. It wasn't a super athlete or anything. It was just some guy.
Yeah.
And he just said he did it, and he beat the 4 minute mark by something like I can't remember if it was like half a second or something, but it wasn't by very much. But he did break it. You know how long it took for the second person to break that record, the 4 mile minute, or the to run a mile faster in 4 minutes? I think it was about 6 weeks is what it was.
Wow.
So the point that I'm trying to go with here, and this might not be the best example to go with, but this is the one I chose, and that would be is to say that for years through cooperation, you would say that this is the fastest, everybody's agreed on it, we're cooperating, everybody's agreed it, until some person just says, well, no, maybe not. And then he goes and he tries to break it. Would you call that like competitive then at that point to say, well, I'm gonna break this record? And then finally someone else just says, well, I can go do that too. Let's go to I guess what you would say, well, this might not be your favorite topic, but let's go to sports, I guess, with this. We'll go to the Olympics. We'll go to Olympic sports.
There you go.
So you have like the Olympic sprinters that would run, and they would run like do the 100 meter dash. I think that's considered one of the mark of like the great that's like the creme de la creme of I guess of like Summer Olympics anyway. So if it was a cooperative society, you could just say like, okay, everybody's got to run the same pace, and we're all going to do the 100 meters in 10 seconds, and we're going to set this to be 10 seconds. But there's a certain drive in people to say, no, I'm going to go do it. I'm going to go do this faster. And then one person's going to go a bit faster, and we tend to celebrate, those that can reach the peak of, I guess what you would say, excellence at that point. Would that be considered like competitive? That's not necessarily bad competitive behavior, but that would be considered competitive.
Yeah, I
guess what I'm trying to say is that competitiveness doesn't necessarily mean maliciousness or have like a malicious intent, and cooperation doesn't mean like
no, it's true,
a benevolent intent. Cooperation could be just simply like
that's
letting
point,
Amazon buy up all the other companies and just say, we're just going to let them do that. Because they got money. They're going to do that, and we're going to create an anti-competitive environment for it. But on the other part, I think you could say that competition would be maybe one aspect of innovation now. Necessity would be one. If somebody sees something that needs to be done, or they see some kind of, something that people want, and then they say, well, I'm going to make it happen. Yeah, I think you could even say that would be competitive in of itself. Say that, okay, I'm going to do something because no one else has done this. Instead of just saying, well, that's just how it is. But there's certainly many holes in my argument for this, but I guess that's just what I wanted to say, is that with competition, you would have to get some kind. I see where that guy was going though, where he said that with some kind of competition, you would then somebody's going to say, well, I'm going to do this thing now. I'm going to surpass it. Now I'm going to surpass it. Now I'm going to surpass it. And they would have to have that kind of mentality to get to the point where you would spread your civilization across the stars, compared to one that would just be completely cooperative, and they would just say, well, we're going to cooperate. We're going to keep things the way they are right now. Because we're going to cooperate. You're not going out on your own. If you try to go out on your own and go to the stars, you're going to regret it.
Yeah.
I guess that was just the point that I wanted to make.
Yeah, I thought we were moving towards like that kind of a capitalist type model is the only one that's really ever going to breed any kind of like real innovation due to like competitiveness and that stuff.
I don't know if that's also true in that, but
yeah. Well, and I thought that's where we're going with it. Where I was like, oh well, but no, I would have to agree. Quite. Yeah, I would have to agree. Yeah, with your points. Yes.
Do you ever see that one guy? What's that guy's name? I remember seeing something from a while ago. I don't know. It's called like Zeitgeist or something. I think you can find like the movie set in. Oh, do you know what it is? I think it's like some movie documentaries. I think you can find on YouTube from like a decade ago. There's some guy that fancied himself an inventor. I guess maybe that's what he would be. And he came up with an idea of what he called a resource-based society. I can't remember what that guy's name was. Jacques something. And his thought was that instead of having incentive be money to try to fuel people to do stuff, it would be you try to incentivize people through either, I don't know if you call it a sense of duty, but he calls it like resources. And the only thing that I am, he's a much smarter man than I am. The only thing that I have trouble that kind of has me tilt my head a little bit and go, is how would you not consider like money a resource then at that point?
I just pulled up this thing. Actually, I pulled up this thing with that Elon posted that you was talking about there. I saw it, but let's divide a country into half capitalist and half communist and check on it 70 years later. Yeah, North and South Korea. Yeah, yeah. I mean, is it a true communist country? No, not really. By the definition, it's a dictatorship. But
the communist on the southern part of the country.
Yeah, right. It's pretty crazy. Is that a real photo? It must be, yeah. That's actually fucking nuts, yeah. God
what would that be? It's not East and West Germany. No, that wouldn't be East and West Germany. I don't think. No. I'm thinking of something else. But I think that was what East and West Germany was that I think West Germany belonged to the Soviets, and Eastern Germany was, I guess what you'd say, the Allies. But I don't know. My World War II history is not great.
Yes. Well, I was just looking at this too, actually. Elon has pinned on his Twitter here the American births versus legal immigrants. Dear Jesus, that they're outpacing since August, there are officially more arriving each month than there are children being born to American mothers. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, it's because kids are expensive.
They are. It's expensive times.
You saw that movie, Idiocracy.
Oh yeah, I know. That's where we're heading. That's where we're heading, everybody. Idiocracy. There you go. Right
you should show the birth like flow chart, not the flow chart, the family tree.
That was the start of the movie, though, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You should show that. See if you can find that. That's oh wait, click on the one that shows the scene of the city. They have like the two. It's on like the bottom left.
Oh, right here, yeah. Where it's completely.
There was one where you had like the city. They have the rubber bands holding the two buildings together. It gets me every time.
This is my favorite. It's the President Comanche or whatever, Terry Crews on the fucking trike riding in. Holy fuck! I'm gonna watch that again. It's been a while since I watched it, but holy fuck, yeah. Fuck me. I hope that's not where we're fucking headed, but I mean, yeah. Yeah. Oh my god. There he is right there. Holy fuck. Yeah. Well, anyway, maybe we'll end that there. Get on TV.
Well, thanks for letting me hijack the stream for a little bit.
Oh, hey, listen. It's always good. Come on in, anytime. Wait. Be told to wait. Can we end on the trailer park? Oh, yeah, yes. Hold on.
Hey, Joe, this guy needs help with his car. I think he came from afar, like another state. I don't know, he just points at the stars, and the way that he talks is bizarre. Right in his leg, I know, must to make it a car. I don't know, look, it caught me off guard. Looks real strange in the dark. Look, it's here at the park. Bark! What the heck are you saying? Probably speaking some Spanglish. Oh my God, it's an alien. He's a foreigner, ain't he? No, not from Mexico, Braden. He crashed his car on the pavement. Dummy, that's a spaceship. We found the location. Patience, sneak in and take them. Retreat the spaceship with no hesitations. Don't let the locals know that we survey them. Fight them with forces, they make altercations.
Holy fuck.
Gracious, how did they make this? Go get my tool set in some beer cases. Ordnance are nations made by aliens. Like Toyota. Dummy, that's Asian. Got him. What the heck are you saying? Those are government agents. Knock it off, he's a harmless Asian. We're preventing invasion. Stop illegal immigration. Oh, right. He's not for the
this track is fire.
Stand back, we're protecting the nation. Please. You ain't no patriot. That's enough. You're men in black, okay, so what? You may have blasters, you got the ducks, but we got the tractors, we got the trucks. You dirty bastards better give up. Jason aliens and thudding them up. Don't defy us, we're authority. Look, it's a trailer park, we don't give up. What? They fixed it. What the heck are you saying? Huh?
Thank you.
Don't let them escape you. Hurry now, for they take you. Uncle Sam, we're ready to face you.
Activate erase.
Our memory's fading. Hey Joe, this guy needs help with
Are
his
trailer
car.
parks like a North American phenomena only, or?
No, he just points at the stars. No, wait. Brayden is late. I know. What's to make it a car?
I feel bad for people that never experience
Looks
it.
real strange in the dark. Look,
Makes
it's here in the
sense. It would be a
Huh?
very economic. I don't know. It makes sense if it was a thing.
Sir, speak.
You ever see that show Xavier Renegade Angel?
No.
Oh, this whole song and video just is pretty much reminds me of that. It's a show from Adult Swim, from 2005 or something, and the entire show was essentially a long fever dream.
Jesus Christ.
You can actually watch them all on YouTube now. I think they've had it somehow got 2 seasons. I don't know how it got 2 seasons.
Oh shit.
But yeah, this whole video just kind of reminds me of that.
He ended on the reptilians. So there we go.
Wow.
The Alpha Draconans. And everybody, thank you for that fire, Digi. Thank you everybody for coming around. We'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.